Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Opinion Machine, the show where we talk about all things gaming. My name is Killjoy, and today I'm going to do something a bit fun, a bit different. I'm going to rank the Smash Bros. Characters based on how easy or hard they are to play as in the game. So I've been thinking about this recently with Steve coming out, and like, to me, Steve's quite a hard character, spoilers. But I was like, why not just like see how I feel about the other characters and put them in some kind of list. I'm just going to go in order from like Mario down to Steve, because it's just going to be easier rather than me trying to search around and stuff. So we'll start off with the man himself, Mr. Mario. Mario is definitely an easy character to use. He has fairly quick attacks, he has decent range, he's got a projectile. His recovery might not be the best, but it's still fairly decent. He's got obviously the reflector. Like, if you're going to get someone to play the game, Mario's a good choice to start with, I think. He's not the easiest choice, but he's definitely like, he's not a medium or hard character to learn. Flood might be the most complicated mechanic about him, so there is that, but other than that, I think Mario is a very, very easy character to use. And just all round, he just has a good move set that's good for beginners, basically, a way to protect themselves from projectiles, a fairly quick up B. You can combo with him, things like that, basically. So definitely an easy character. Ooh, okay, Donkey Kong. You know what? I actually think Donkey Kong is also easy to use. Thinking about it, like, okay, his recovery isn't amazing, but Donkey Kong is a heavy. He hits really hard. I mean, his moves can be quite slow, but he's got the big, obviously the punch, the headbutt's really powerful. His up B's very powerful on the ground as well as in the air. He's got the ground pound slams. Like, he's got quite a variety of moves for dealing with groups of people as well as dealing with single opponents. Obviously his biggest weakness is being a heavy dude. He's a bit slower, but all of his aerials are good. I think he out of all the heavy characters, he might be the easiest one to use, like in terms of the classic heavies, but we'll see how we get there. There's a good chance a lot of these characters to start with are going to be fairly easy. There might be later characters that get harder as they go along, but I think Donkey Kong, out of all the heavy characters, might be one of the easier ones to use, just based on the fact that he's got fairly good range on his attacks. Yeah, they can be a little bit slow, but he also hits really hard. So I think everything balances out quite nicely with Donkey Kong. Link, also probably one of the easiest sword fighters to use, in my opinion. His sword attacks have big swipes. His specials like the bomb and the arrow and the boomerang are all very easy to use, the most complicated one being the bomb, especially with this Link in this game, because of the remote control bomb. But honestly, I think Link as a character he has his swipes with his sword, he's a little bit on the slower side, but his swipes with the sword have so much range, and he has obviously all the range with the arrows. His running attack in this game is really powerful. Yeah, okay, again, his recovery may not be the best, but I think generally if you're learning a sword fighter, Link is a very good place to start, because you've got a lot of versatility there with all of his attacks. Also, up B is like a kind of get off me kind of move, like, because it spins around, has a fairly big hitbox. So I think Link, if you're going to learn a sword fighter, Link's a good one to start with, honestly. Samus, also probably one of the easier projectile fighters to use. Samus doesn't have has quite slow, like, just attacks, with jab not being the greatest, forward tilt, up tilt, down tilt, all that stuff being a little bit on the slower side. But you have the missiles, you have the bombs, you have the charge shot and the up B. I think Samus has a little bit of weight to her, so she's doesn't die that easily. You've got two recoveries. You've got the tether recovery with the whip, and you've also got the up B, which goes fairly far. I think Samus, again, if you're learning projectile characters, you can probably tell as well, the older characters didn't have too many crazy gimmicks, so it's like they are a little bit easier to use. But based on Samus's ability to kind of spam out projectiles and protect herself and be, and her throw in this game is really good. Like, he's got a really good range. It comes out fairly quick as well, so definitely one of the easier projectile characters to play. Alright, Yoshi, that's an interesting one. How do I feel about Yoshi? You know, I'm not sure about Yoshi. Well, let's have a think. Yoshi's got, obviously, in this game they gave him a third jump, so that definitely made... Do you know what? Because they gave him a third jump, I think if he didn't have the egg throw jump that he doesn't have in the other games, and he only had a double jump, The egg throw gives you extra height and extra movement and actually makes it a lot easier to survive with him. Yoshi's very powerful in this game. I'm not that great with him, but like in general, like he's got fairly good aerials. His egg throw is a really good move. Being able to eat people is pretty funny. But because they added... Originally you could jump twice with him and that was it. Most other characters you use the up B and you get back on the stage, acts as like a third jump. Yoshi never used to have that. He does now, where when you push up B, when he flings the egg, he also kind of like hops up a bit when he does it, so you actually gain extra height. And he jumps really high anyway. I don't think he's quite as easy as Mario. I think he's a little bit quicker, and his moves are a little bit weirder. But I think since they've added that extra jump, he's definitely easier to survive with. And he is quite a powerful character, has some good moves. So yeah, I think he probably does go in the easy category now. Probably never used to, but Kirby also easy. The only downside to Kirby is his range on a lot of his moves is quite short, but he has some very good moves. He can obviously fly a lot as well. He has like 5 jumps, I think it is. So in terms of trying to recover, he's pretty good for that. He's got the hammer, which is really powerful if you can land it. You've got the bit where you can turn to stone, which can obviously deflect damage. Well, not deflect, sorry. It can stop you from taking damage. His up B is also pretty good, the cutter. So that's a pretty good move. So he does have a fairly good moveset. His biggest downside is that he's really light, and his range is quite short, but he still has fairly decent moves, and he is a good character for people to learn if they struggle to recover. Definitely one of the easier characters to learn. Alright, Fox, probably, in my opinion, the first medium character, and the reason for this is Fox is really, really fast, he doesn't jump very high, and he falls really fast. Now, if you're playing Fox and you're trying to play a very movement style of Fox, it can get pretty hectic. He's not, like, hard to use, but the biggest thing with Fox is that, like, if you're not used to playing a character that fast falls and has, like, very little jumps, then it's going to take you by surprise. He has good moves, like he's got the laser, the fire, up B, I forgot what that's called, Firefox maybe. He's got the shadow phantom move, and he's got reflector. Reflector is really powerful, obviously, but like he is a character that requires a little bit of finesse. He's definitely not a hard character to use, but he is, in my opinion, someone that you've got to get used to his movement. Once you get used to his movement, he's not so bad, but it throws me off even now, like trying to land things. I'm not very good with Fox. I'm probably better with Wolf and Falco. But yeah, Fox is fun. I actually really like him in Ultimate, but yeah, you got to get used to how fast he moves, and that's definitely something that you've got to learn. Compared to the rest of these characters, none of these characters move as fast as Fox, nor do they drop as fast as him. So yeah, definitely slightly on the harder side. Pikachu. I'm going to put Pikachu into medium, not because I think Pikachu is overly hard. Pikachu's up B is something that you need to understand how it works. In Ultimate, Pikachu's fairly easy to use in the sense that like the moves are quite simple. Like you got Thunder Jolt, Thunder Bolt, and you got like Skull Bash and stuff like that. But Pikachu is just because of the up B, I think this character is a little bit on the more difficult side. Like I think I know a lot of people are obviously going to play Pikachu to start with because, you know, it's a Pokemon, people love Pikachu. I don't think he's, by the way, none of these characters are in order. I don't think he's like, it's kind of, there should be like between easy and medium, that's where Pikachu sits, because as a character, he's pretty easy to use in the sense that like his moves are very straightforward. The downside, he doesn't have that much range, but he has a lot of speed. But you've also got to remember that when people are learning the game, like, recovering with Pikachu is strange, because you're just going to push up B, and he's going to go up, and then fall straight down again, and you don't necessarily want that. You need to figure out how you can use Quick Attack twice, and it has a hitbox and stuff like that. So he's not, like, ultra difficult or anything like that. He's not, like, super hard or anything, but he is definitely a character that's, if someone said, pick me a character to start with, I probably wouldn't say Pikachu. I'd be like, just kind of get a handle on the game mechanics first and how things work, and then maybe pick him for that reason. But yeah, if he's set between easy and medium, that's probably where he would sit. Luigi, definitely a medium character. Luigi doesn't play anything like Mario. He has a really good combo game, and obviously Luigi's been my main until Ultimate, where I kind of fell off of him a little bit because his recovery got kind of nerfed. But what makes Luigi more difficult than Mario is Luigi's all about the combo game. His grab in this game, I actually don't like his grab in Ultimate. I prefer his old grab. But he has a uppercut that's you have to learn when to use it because it requires you to be right on top of the opponent's hitbox. It's not like Mario's that will multi-hit. If you whiff with Luigi, it will miss. His recovery is kind of weird because he's got the green missile. He's also got the cyclone move that gives you some air time, and he's got up B. His grab doesn't grab the ledge. He's quite floaty. Like, he's not hard. He's not like some characters, like the next character that we're going to be talking about, kind of hard, but like, he takes a little bit of time. Once you realize he's got combos and stuff, like, that's when he gets really fun. But Luigi does have a very strange moveset, and he's also very, if you don't understand how his recovery works, you can get killed. Like, he can recover fair distances, but there are some issues with him that I think in this game that make him just a bit more harder than he used to be. So if you like playing Mario and you want a bit more of a challenge, then I'd go for Luigi. Definitely pick him up and give him a whirl, but just be prepared that his moves are a little bit on the funky side. They're not super straightforward. So, and that brings us to the first hard character in my opinion, which is Ness. And Ness, people out there be like, what are you talking about? Ness and Lucas, their recovery moves throw off so many people that I see trying to learn this game, because they don't realise to start with that when you're over a hole and you up B, you take control of the PK Thunder, and obviously you have to hit it into yourself to send yourself flying. So as a beginner character, he's not somebody you want to start with. Yeah, he's got PK Fire. Oh, excuse me. He's got PK Fire, which is a really powerful move. He's got PK Flash. And he's got an absorber to like heal and stuff. Like Ness himself, if you ignore his recovery, he's quite floaty, he can do good combos and stuff, which is fine. But his recovery is one of the, in my opinion, is one of the hardest to do, because it completely removes control of your character, and then it's up to you to like connect correctly with your character to get back on stage. Unless we come across one off the top of my head right now, I can't think of any characters that have a harder recovery, but I'm sure that will change. But Lucas's is a little bit easier because the turning circle of PK Thunder is quicker. But in my opinion, because it's such a unique up B, it's not a character you should start the game playing with. You would, like, as a beginner, someone who used to really get into playing Ness in Smash 64, I had to learn how he worked. And I really enjoy playing Ness. Luigi and Ness and DK so far are the ones, some of my most fun characters over the years playing Smash. So yeah, Ness is a character that is, once you get the hang of him and how he works, he's really fun to play. Like, he's a really good character, but learning his recovery is a must. If you're going to play this character, you've got to learn how to do his recovery, and I think that's really important with a lot of these characters. You've got to learn their recoveries. Alright, Captain Falcon. Definitely more on the medium side. Captain Falcon's a really fun character to play, in my opinion. The reason he's probably a medium is that he's really quick, and you've got to get used to that. But on top of that, it's like learning that he's not the... He has a lot of powerful moves. He's not like... I wouldn't say he's like... You can combo with him, but he's not like a combo king or anything. But what makes him fun to play is a lot of his special moves. Learning to like know when to use Falcon Kick, grab the boost, and Falcon Punch and stuff like that is like super important. Like, I don't think he's, again, this is one of those characters where it's like he's only medium in there because I think you kind of got to get used to how he plays as a character, like the speed of it, and that's going to throw some people off to start with. Obviously, me and Mark play a lot of Smash, and Mark plays a lot of Captain Falcon, and that's a matchup I love. I think Captain Falcon is one of the most quintessential Smash characters. Like, if a Smash game comes out and there's no Captain Falcon, that's just weird to me. Like, he is very iconic to this series, and I think it's really important, like, he's still here and stuff. But I don't think, again, he's one of those characters I wouldn't recommend it. Maybe you could argue that he is fairly easy because he's kind of like a one-hit kind of man, and he's got really powerful attacks. Like, he's not that hard to use, but I think just because of, like, as a fighter, he has no projectiles. Like, he has Falcon Kick, which is probably the nearest thing you're going to get to one. He has a lot of moves that are, like, kind of laggy on the end, so you kind of have to get used to, like, timing and stuff, but he's not like, difficult, but yeah, he's definitely one of those characters that maybe you want, again, just kind of got to get used to the feel of him and how fast he moves and things like that. So, definitely not quite the beginner character, but yeah, definitely still a fun one, and definitely something, you know, someone who has a lot of fun. Landing Falcon Punch always feels satisfying, so it's always good. Alright, Jigglypuff. I think I'm going to put Jigglypuff in hard. Jigglypuff is not necessarily like... It used to be my least favourite character, and, like, in my opinion, the worst character, but what makes Jigglypuff difficult is that Jigglypuff dies really easily against certain attacks. Like, it doesn't take a lot to kill Jigglypuff. The advantage Jigglypuff has is being able to float very fast in the air, has fairly good aerials. Obviously, one of the main things Jigglypuff has is rest, which will, on a lot of percentages at a certain point, will insta-kill somebody, obviously leaving that character open. That's where the difficult part comes into. It's learning that you're dealing with two things. You're trying to rack up damage and land rest, while also not taking damage, and realizing that you, against someone like Bowser, like, you're going to have a speed advantage over Bowser, you're probably going to land rest quite easily. Bowser only has to hit Jigglypuff maybe 2 to 3 times with some heavy attacks and Jigglypuff's dead. Like, Jigglypuff has weird matchups, and in my opinion is a character that is not a beginner character at all. Like, unlike Kirby. Kirby's much easier to use because even though Kirby's light, Kirby has moves like his dash attack's really good. He has all these moves that can kind of help. His aerials are also good. Jigglypuff is lighter than Kirby and also has this whole gimmick around trying to land rest. You also have like Pound and Rollout and stuff like that with Jigglypuff. Pound's actually really good. Rollout's kind of it's kind of better for group battles than it is for a single one-on-one, but yeah, Jigglypuff very, very difficult to use. Easy in the sense that you can fly around, but like the moves that this character has and the short range makes it very difficult to play. Alright, Peach. Not a character I play particularly much, but definitely an easy character. Has double jump, has the ability to float, has up B, which also helps to float again. Has some weird moves and stuff, but Peach, the thing with Peach is very easy to recover, has a projectile, has a fairly good forward smash, is a character that some people really like. I don't actually enjoy playing Peach, she's not for me. I get why people like playing her, but this is a character that has a high skill ceiling, but is also very easy to pick up and play. Bit on the lighter side, but like I said, you can recover like from so many areas. Good, decent attacks, like decent hitbox sizes and things like that. Like it's hard to not recommend Peach as just a character that's decent to play. So all I can say about Peach is that kind of like slightly slower than some of these other characters, but has a much easier way of recovering. Has a big way, lots of ways of recovering, especially high, and has a projectile and other decent attacks. Like just an all-round fairly decent character to play with and kind of get used to. So easy, very easy. All right, Bowser. Bowser's a weird one because Bowser is. I put him in hard. Let's talk about this because let's figure this out. Bowser is a heavy character, and especially in Ultimate has super armor, well, not super armor, has armor on a lot of moves, which means that he can't. It's hard to make him flinch unless you use like a smash attack or a harder attack. So he can get through a lot of moves quite easily. So that's a bonus point for the easiness of him because you can kind of get through some moves. He's definitely faster in this game. And he has one of the most infuriating moves in the entire game, which is this 2-frame grab that he has, which comes out, grabs you, slams you down. So he can kill people really easy. Bowser's biggest problem is that he can get comboed crazy easy because he's so big and slow. But he also hits really hard. Do you know what? I think I'm going to put Bowser in medium because even if you're picking the game up and you're learning it, you're probably going to find with Bowser that you're going to walk through a lot of moves. And especially in more than 1v1s, like free-for-alls and things, you're probably going to find that you're going to survive. He's got some of the best survivability. Recovery's not the best, but it's still fairly good. His down air and his down B and stuff are super powerful. He can break shields pretty easily. Like, I think thinking about it, he's not that hard to use. I think DK's still a bit easier. He's a little bit quicker. Has a bit more range on some of his moves. Bowser does have the flamethrower move actually, which is pretty good. So like Bowser's definitely got some moves there. I think what makes him a little more difficult is just realizing that he is a slower character than most people, and he will get juggled around quite a bit. But when he hits people, he hits them hard and will send them flying quite a lot. So yeah, I think Bowser's definitely kind of more of a medium type character. All right, Ice Climb is definitely hard. Ice Climbers is not a character you give to someone who's learning the game. Ice Climbers are great. I think Ice Climbers, once you've kind of got a handle on things, are a lot of fun. They will die very easily, but the idea that you have a AI partner is kind of where it makes this difficult, because when your AI partner dies, you lose a lot of things. You lose a lot of your power. Your recovery is so much worse, and that is something you need to learn when playing Ice Climbers. Like, when you've got both the characters and you're like landing moves and hitting comboing and stuff, like they feel so much fun to play. But as soon as you lose that partner and you lose the ability to belay, it definitely makes this character an interesting choice. This is not a beginner friendly character in my opinion, but I think they are someone that are a lot of fun to play. And once you kind of get past the fact that, oh, I've got a partner and when they die, like, my power goes down significantly, and you just kind of play around that, then yeah, it's pretty good. So definitely a character to have fun with. But yeah, if you're a beginner trying to learn the game, not the easiest character to go with, just based on their recovery and the fact that they lose so much attack power when their ally dies. Alright, Sheik. Probably a medium character based on the fact that Sheik is very, very quick, does not do very much damage back, but can combo, has a decent recovery. I think what again makes it a little bit more on the difficult side is just because of how fast Sheik moves. Some of the moves are a bit weird, like bouncing fish comes out of a weird angle, the bomb is a bit strange, but I think definitely a fairly like easy character to be used by some people. I just think you kind of got to get used to the fact that Sheik has no killing power, but will combo a lot. So I think once you've kind of got the handle on the game and you want to play a character with a bit more complexities, but doesn't require a lot of thought in any specific area, like with Sheik, once you get on top of people, you can be quite oppressive, which is good. And I think Sheik's one of those characters, I don't play her very often. I do like to dig her out from time to time, but like, oh my god, it's so hard to kill anyone when you're playing Sheik. So definitely a character that's got a lot of potential for fun there, though. So Zelda, have a think about Zelda. Zelda has 2 projectiles in this game, has a reflector, has a really good recovery, is a little bit on the slow side, but because she has magic attacks that throws her to, maybe Zelda's easy. Maybe Zelda is an easy character to use. Like, if we think about this, yeah, so you can up B, which will teleport you in any direction, and you go pretty far. If you hit somebody when you up B, it'll also do damage to them, so it can kill them. The reflector's really good, and also does damage around her. The fireball, once you get the hang of it, isn't too hard to use. Same with the down B, once you kind of got the hang of it, isn't too hard. So she's got projectiles. She's got fairly decent aerials, even though some of them might be a little bit slow. Though her forward and back aerial have sweet spots, and they can do quite a lot of damage. And she's got grabs that are pretty powerful. So her biggest downside is she's on a bit on the slower side, and she's quite light. But I think as a character to pick up and play, she's actually not that hard. The more I think about it, the more I'm actually like, yeah, she's not that hard to use. So I would recommend this character actually then, because you can recover fairly easily and you've got a variety of moves. And the reflector kind of move is good to, again, when someone runs in close, you can just tap that and it will multi-hit them. So yeah, I think Zelda's definitely on the easier side. Alright, Dr. Mario, you're definitely a medium character. Dr. Mario is really fun to play, and he is kind of a combination of Luigi and Mario. He has the Dr. Cyclone, which is bloody powerful. He can actually recover with it, which is good. The biggest downside to Dr. Mario is he's slower and his up B doesn't go as far, so he is a character that will get killed much easier off screen if you don't know what you're doing. And he also feels quite stumpy. But Dr. Mario hits like an absolute truck. Actually shocking how much his forward smash does so much damage and has so much knockback on it. It's crazy. But his down B, unlike Luigi's, can actually like make him go very far. If you down B and keep mashing the B button, you can fly quite high with him, so you do get that as an extra bit of recovery. His reflector's a bit harder to use. It comes out at a weird angle, but he does have like fairly good aerials. Like I said, he just hits really hard. He's just slower than Mario. I like his power pellets more than the fireballs. They bounce at funny angles. I think Dr. Mario is a great character. A lot of people probably don't like. I mean, competitive wise, he's probably not that good, but I actually really like playing Dr. Mario. I think he's a lot of fun. But he's not going from Mario to Dr. Mario. You realize there's a lot. Like comboing is slower, his movement is slower, but you do hit way harder. So definitely more of a challenging character, kind of in between Luigi and Mario in some ways, kind of a mishmash of those. But I think he's a really good character. But yeah, stick with Mario first, and then move on to Dr. Mario after you've done that. Pichu, one of my favorite characters. You know what? Actually, I'm gonna put Pichu in hard. Basically because Pichu is a harder version to use than Pikachu, in the sense that Pichu gets killed much easier. Pichu's biggest gimmick is he does damage to himself, and Pichu will die very fast. The best thing about Pichu is his combo game is crazy. Like Pikachu's in this, like you can do some pretty crazy combos. His quick attack doesn't have a hitbox on it, which means that like when you do try to recover, people can actually just get in on you and kill you quicker. An interesting matchup is Pichu versus Bowser, because Bowser will kill Pichu so fast, but if you're a good Pichu player and you can get a combo started on Bowser, you can actually just like combo him off the stage. So it's like a really it's a fun matchup. It's a hard matchup for both players because you're constantly trying to figure out like, you know, not getting hit. But I think Pichu is just one of the hardest characters to use in the game, like because you are such disadvantaged in the fact that you will be KO'd very easily, you hurt yourself, and you need to figure out how his aerials work and how to play a very heavy combo game, and that's super important. If you can't do that, you're going to struggle very much with Pichu. But he is awesome in this game, in my opinion. But he is hard to use. So yeah, just a very difficult character, but very like high risk, high reward. Falco, definitely easier to use than Fox, in my opinion. Your laser stuns, your reflector goes out. You've got fairly good. You know what? I think Falco's easy. Falco has a high jump, like a ridiculously high jump. His recovery is much easier than Fox. Doesn't move as quick, but his laser stuns, you know, it's a bit slower. His reflector comes out, he kicks it at people, and then it also reflects. He's got the same phantom move. I don't know whether that works the same or has the same properties. And his up B is still fairly decent. Falco is, in my opinion, yeah, just easier to use than Fox. Fox is probably a better character, but Falco has good moves, and I think Falco also has the ability to just like, it's just a slightly slower paced game. Similar sort of abilities and stuff to that of Fox, but just a bit easier to use all around, in my opinion. Once you've kind of got the hang of Falco and you move on to Fox, you'll realise, oh, Fox doesn't have such higher recovery. He moves a lot quicker. All these sort of things. So I think Falco is definitely the easier of the two characters to play in this game. Marth, I don't think Marth's that hard to use. I could be wrong. I'm trying to think. How do I feel about Marth? I think Marth's definitely one of the easier swordies. He's got good range. He's got a good variety of moves. He's got a counter. His up B's fairly fast. I mean, that's probably the weakest thing, is when he's off stage. It's more vertical than it is horizontal. But there's not really much I can say about Marth, because like Marth is just like, he's got a sword. I think Link is a bit easier to use because even though Link's a bit slower, he has all those projectiles. Marth doesn't have a projectile, but he has a good combo game. He has a tipper, so when you hit people with the tip of the sword, it actually like does more damage, which is pretty cool. It's a good mechanic. All in all, I think out of all the Fire Emblem characters, Marth is definitely the easiest one to use, along with Lucina. He is a lot of fun, to be honest. I actually prefer Roy, but like I think Marth is a good character. A lot of people like playing like Marth, just like straight up, because he's fun, kind of swordy, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I think he's a pretty decent character. There's not really much more I can say about Marth, to be honest. He's just a very solid character around, and he's not that hard to use. And he's got range, so you can kind of outrange a lot of characters. Young Link. Young Link in this game is really good. I think Young Link is slightly harder to use than normal Link, and the only reason I say that is he's lighter, and it takes a lot more shots to kill people. However, again, this is sort of between easy and medium. He's only a little bit more difficult to use than Link. He's not like super much more, and I think that's what makes me place him here. I think he's like kind of a little bit of a step up. I think more people are going to want to play Young Link because he is faster. He has his move. You can do crazy combos with Young Link. It's actually kind of fun. It's fun as hell to play as Young Link. His arrows are really cool. His bombs come out. Like, he's just a really good character, and he's like a quicker version of Link. But I do think he has less killing power, and he can be KO'd a lot easier. But he is an impressive character. Like, trying to get close to him is annoying when he's just chucking bombs and the boomerang and the arrows and stuff. You can really fire at the arrows quite a lot and really hold someone back with them. But he's a character I like to just play less about range and more about getting up into people's faces and using his like neutral air and comboing and stuff like that. Like, he's a lot of fun for that. It makes him just a little bit more difficult than the regular Link. Ganondorf, probably in hard. Ganondorf is super slow. He's less of a clone of Captain Falcon now. His recovery is not great. He is very, very slow. His biggest advantage is that he hits like a truck. His smash attacks are super powerful. But he's so heavy on the controller. Like playing with him, you can actually, it's almost like you can feel how heavy he is, which is kind of good. He just basically hits hard and has no recovery. He's one of those characters that like a lot of his moves are slow. You have to play patiently if you're going to play Ganondorf. Like I really like Ganondorf. I like Ganondorf versus Captain Falcon matches because they have similar movesets. But he is, yeah, he's a slow boy. I think he's one of those characters you pick up after you played Captain Falcon, because he's got Warlock Punch and Warlock Kick, which are basically the same. And he has similar moves, and then it's his smash attacks that are kind of different. Yeah, he's like a harder version of Captain Falcon, basically. But I think he's a really fun character. I really enjoy playing Ganondorf. He's actually, if you want to counter some of the heavies, Ganondorf's a good choice, because he's still a bit quicker than them, even though he can't jump very high. But yeah, fairly good character. Mewtwo. Ooh, where do I put you? So what have you got, Mewtwo? You've got the Shadow Ball move, you're very light, but you've got fairly good, very floaty. Probably medium. Some weird moves, down B and forward B, like figuring out what they do, because he can stun people, he can also spin people up and reflect things. Has fairly decent range, has good throws, has a good projectile, which does more damage, covers quite a big space. Yeah, I mean, he's a bit light. For a character, he is actually quite light, so you can die pretty quickly. But he's got good range with his tail attacks. His aerials are pretty good. I really like his forward throw because it fires out mini shadow balls. Yeah, I think his recovery and his his dodge attack actually removes his hitbox, I believe. So he definitely got advantages there. But I think he's a bit weird and wily. He's like a character you kind of got to learn the range of his attacks and stuff, so he's not hard to use by any means, but he's definitely not a very basic, easy character. Definitely worth learning how this character works, for sure. But Mewtwo, yeah, he is fun. He's a very floaty character. Just gotta get used to that. Roy, one of my favourite characters in the game, definitely more of a medium character than Marth. Roy in this game is fucking amazing. I love like Roy in this and Smash 4. I love the fact they brought him back and they made him more different than Marth. Like, Roy's very oppressive. Whereas Marth is all about using the tip of the blade to get the most damage, Roy's all like up close. You get up close with him, you do more damage with it. So it's learning about the weak spot, the sour spot, and the sweet spot. And Roy is a little bit harder. He hits much harder than Marth. Like, that side of things hits much harder than Marth. But some of his attacks are a bit weird. You have to kind of get used to how they come out. But I think once you kind of get used to Roy and you start to understand him as a character, he's got loads of combo potential, he's got really good moves. His recovery's a little bit weak, but that's only because, again, the angle it comes out of. But I think Roy, in my opinion, Roy is my favourite Fire Emblem character in the game. I've always really liked Roy since Melee, even though I didn't play him a huge amount back then. I've always liked just the fact that he's got all the fire going on. He's just a really cool character. Like, he's just a super cool character. It's hard not for me to get excited about Roy, because I'm really glad they brought him back when they did in Smash 4, and I got used to it. And then playing him in this, like, me and Mark both played Roy a lot, and I play him a little bit less now because Mark's kind of picked him up, and you know, it's a character that he likes to play. But Roy is for what he is. He hits really bloody hard, but he is a lot of fun. He's got a good combo game. Like I said, his biggest downside is just that his recovery is a bit naff. But I would say Marth is a little bit easier to use. I think Marth has got slightly more range. Roy's much more close ranged, whereas Marth, you can kind of keep people away at sword's length, which is what you want to do. But yeah, Roy's actually, I think Roy might be faster than Marth, I'm not sure. But they are both fast characters anyway, when they're running speed and stuff. But Roy, a lot of fun. Slightly complicated once you figure out how his moves work with hitting them with the hilt of the sword. Then he's a lot of fun. It's great. Mr. Game & Watch. This is a weird one. Probably here. I don't know. That's a weird. I don't actually know a Game & Watch. Like, he's not. I think what makes him less easy is probably because his moves are so strange. Like, figuring out the animations of the move. He has quite short range, to be fair. He has a good up B. He has a lot of fun. Game & Watch is a fantastic character with so much personality. I love it. But I can't really pinpoint down why I think he's difficult. I guess his forward air in this game is a bit harder to use because of the way it works. which is a bomb rather than the pizza box. He actually has good aerials all around. He's got fairly good moves. I think a lot of his tilts and stuff are kind of weird. Once you figure out all the animations, like he's a lot of fun to play with. But I don't think I would start. I think in my head I'm like, would I start somebody off being like, you should play Mr. Game & Watch? Probably not, because just based on the fact of how weird he is and how his animations are very like 2-framed and everything, and they look very strange. So I think he's definitely not a hard character to use. He's got a projectile move. He's got Judge, which is probably one of the funniest moves in the entire game. He's got the bucket move, which is really good as well. Like, he's got really good moves, but I think just based on the fact of the way he moves, the way he acts, probably wouldn't be the best for a beginner. And I'm trying to come at this from like my own opinions, but also like as a beginner, would I find these characters easy to use? And probably not Mr. Game & Watch. So, alright, Meta Knight. Probably I put in the easy thing. Meta Knight's got good recovery moves. He's got very short range, which is his biggest weakness, and being quite light. Doesn't do a lot of damage. He's one of the most crazy combo characters, but as a beginner, like, that's not, comboing's not like the thing you're probably thinking about, but like, he has good attacks. He has the drill attack, he has the whirlwind, his up B's really good, down B. So he's got so many moves that you can recover with. I think he's got probably some of the best moves to recover with on stage. He's very fast, but not too fast. Yeah, I think he's probably one of the easiest characters to use in the game. I think maybe at higher level he's a bit harder because his range isn't that long. But yeah, thinking about it, Meta Knight's actually pretty easy to pick up. With that many moves that all kind of like move you in some direction, just mashing the tornado on its own is pretty crazy. So yeah, Meta Knight definitely on the easier side. Pit is the easiest character to use in the game in my opinion. He has a very good recovery, he has a projectile, he's very jack of all trades, but like no master or anything. He has a reflector, he has a move that will do a lot of damage and send you flying. If you want to learn this game and you've never played this game before, I would absolutely 100% recommend Pit to your friends if you've got people that have never played before, because he has a decent projectile, because he has decent range. All of his moves are very easy to use, and his recovery is also good. He's got multiple jumps. Like, absolutely. Like, there's not much I can say about Pit, that he is just super easy to use. Would recommend it as a beginner character, basically. Alright, moving on. Zero Suit Samus. Medium. I don't think she's hard to use. She's fast, which is something you have to get used to. Her moves are kind of a bit weird, because they come out at funny angles or whatever, but like, I think Zero Suit Samus is just a character you've got to get used to the fact that she does a lot less damage than regular Samus. She has a little stun gun, she has a little whip, but she's a lot of fun to play. A lot of people like playing her. She can be, again, quite oppressive, like trying to fight against her can be like, oh god, get off. But I think that makes her a bit more difficult is that she's got, her up B is not the best for recovery. You've kind of got to get used to using that, the whip to recover, the down B. She just takes a bit more skill than some of the other characters. Like, once you've kind of got that out of the way, then she's pretty good to use. She's not that hard, and she's a bit quick. So yeah, nothing too crazy there. Wario, where do you? Let's have a think. So you've got the bike. Wario's normals are all fairly easy to use. He's got the fart. He's got the bite as well. And he's got corkscrew. I'm trying in my head, I'm like, is Wario a hard character or a medium? I'm like, no, he's not. I think Wario's actually easy to use. He's fairly straightforward. All of his moves got fairly decent range. He's got a slap move, which is always fun to use. Decent aerials. Moves at a reasonable speed. Can recover pretty well in both directions. The fart move is also really powerful once you learn how to land it. Yeah, I think I can't think of any downsides to Wario. He moves a bit weirdly, acts a bit weirdly. Slightly on the heavier side as well, which is good, but I think Wario is straight up one of the better characters. Definitely worth picking this character up. He's kind of like, the more I think about it, like, he's probably a little bit more complex than Mario, but not enough to put him into like medium category. So yeah, all round I think Wario is actually a good starting character. Like, all of his specials are good and all of his normals are fairly good. He's got a good forward air, good backwards air. Yeah, good character. Definitely someone to pick up and play, I guess. Oh, Snake, you're definitely going into hard. Snake probably isn't hard, but I find him really hard to use because he's all about projectiles. He's very slow. His recovery can be sometimes good, but sometimes bad. There's a lot of complexities. He's fucking fun to play, but like he's not. I don't think he's an easy character to play. I love his design in this game as well. But yeah, he has a lot of like explosive moves, and a lot of his startup on his moves are quite slow. He has the ability to like crawl on the ground, stick down C4. This is not a character you start off by playing at all. I do think he's definitely more on a difficult side. It's hard to say really about Snake. It's just thinking about him. I'm like, oh yeah, like you've kind of got to play a very specific kind of game with him, and that definitely kind of limits what you can do with him. And he's just not the easiest character to use, in all honesty. So yeah, I think Snake is definitely going into the hard category. Ike, you know what? I think Ike's easy. I do put you there. Ike hits really hard. He's a bit slower than like Marth and Roy. His recovery is actually pretty good. It's very predictable, so you can kind of get like knocked out of it and stuff, but they keep tweaking it so it's a little bit better. Hits hard, has good aerial moves. Yeah, he's a bit slower, but Ike is another Fire Emblem character that I think is pretty easy to play. I would recommend that, like, if you want to play someone who's a bit heavier than Marth, then he's definitely worth it, just based on the fact that you can KO people pretty easily. You're not going to get KO'd too much. He's got fairly good aerials that you can combo with. His recovery is basically his weakest thing, but even then you've got the side B, which like flies him across the screen, which is pretty good, and you've got the up B, which you can get knocked out of it quite easily in some circumstances, but if someone's not playing correctly, you'll just catch them and kill them with you. So yeah, I can't really think of many downsides to Ike apart from just being a bit on the slower side. But other than that, like, he's a pretty good beginner character in my opinion. Pokemon Trainer is weird because I think Pokemon Trainer is a lot of fun. I'm not going to put Squirtle, Charizard, and Ivysaur on here individually. Pokemon Trainer is hard because you've got to learn 3 characters. That's what makes this character hard. Each of the characters individually is... Squirtle is probably the... I don't know, like Charizard... that's hard to say actually. Squirtle's not that difficult to use, probably medium. Ivysaur, they're probably all like medium hard characters to use, but as a character themselves, Pokemon Trainer is difficult because you've got to learn 3 different characters and learning when to switch and learning that. And that mechanic is a lot of fun, and Pokemon Trainer is a lot of fun to play with, but yeah, definitely a character you need to understand, like when to switch out and change and stuff. So overall, maybe they're all mediums, but I think combined together as one character, definitely on the hard side there. Diddy Kong, medium. Diddy Kong's great. Diddy Kong's so much fun. He's like fairly quick. I guess just kind of like he has a good combo game with his aerials. His moves are a bit funky. He does have the banana peel, which he can use to slip people up and then combo into that. He's obviously got some speed to him. His recovery is actually, in my opinion, one of the best in the game. I know I've gone back and forth and disagree with people on this, but I think his recovery is insanely good. The monkey flip's pretty decent. Peanut pop gun's alright. It's not a move I use that much, but like generally he's just a fairly all-round good character. I think he's a little bit on the harder side than some of the ones I've got in easy, but he's not like a difficult character by any means. You just kind of got his recovery is something you need to learn. Same with like some of his specials. Basically, that's what you've got to kind of learn and pick up. But he has fairly good moves. Other than that, he's always been a character that I've enjoyed. I like to play him and Donkey Kong, so definitely a, you know, not a difficult character by any means. But I think you just, compared to some of those other ones, just learning his specials and kind of how they work is how, you know, is what makes him a little bit more on the complex side. So Diddy Kong, definitely a fun one. Lucas, you're going into hard, my friend. Lucas in some ways is easier than Ness. His recovery is a little bit easier, but then some of his specials are just weird. He basically is in here because of the same reason for Ness. Like once you kind of figure him out on the ground, it's fine. But he's definitely a bit harder in that aspect, and his recovery is easier. But like he still has a very difficult recovery, which if you're going to give this character to a beginner, is going to struggle with. So for the same reasons as Ness, Lucas is going into hard. Sonic. This is... how the hell am I going to put Sonic? Sonic is the fastest character in the game, so you have to adjust to that speed. He doesn't have the best killing power, but he can also be really annoying. I think Sonic's going into medium. I don't think Sonic's hard, because at a low level you can just run around and just like dash attack and just use the neutral spin. I think at higher levels, like trying to learn him, he definitely has complexities there. But I think what makes him easy enough to use is that you move fast enough to avoid attacks and get in and do just some very basic attacks. His recovery's good. He's got the homing attack. He's got a lot of his spin moves. Yeah. I wouldn't say. I think he to use him beyond just like a basic level, he's probably a bit harder, because you've got to figure out how to like KO people and things like that. But as a beginner, picking him up, like apart from the speed thing being what probably makes him hard for a true beginner, I think most people are going to have an easy time with Sonic, even if they just run around and dash attack you. They're probably still going to have a good time doing it. So yeah, I think that's where he'll sit. DDD. Ooh. I think DDD is a hard character, because DDD, a lot of his moves are really slow. His recovery's okay. He hits hard. Like he's got some of the most powerful moves in the entire game. He has the ability to suck things in. I think what makes him difficult is that his moves have a long wind up, and he is very slow himself. I think he's a lot of fun. His spiky ball move is really, really cool, the Gordo attack. But I think overall, as a heavy character, because he's so much slower than everybody else, and because his moves come out so slowly, like, he's really good in like free-for-alls, but on a 1v1 it takes a lot of patience to get good with him, in my opinion, to deal with certain matchups. Because if you're someone who's a lot quicker than him, getting on top of him and being able to just kind of like combo him is going to be difficult for the DDD player. So yeah, not ideal. Olimar, you're definitely going into hard. Olimar requires the ability of resource management with your Pikmin. Olimar himself is very light. He can be quite hard to hit. Like he's the best he's ever been in this game. But you need to understand how his Pikmin work, the fact that they get more powerful when the flowers are open on their head. Like, this is not a character you give to a beginner at all, in my opinion. Like a lot of people I know think he's shit because they're just like, they don't find him fun to play. But he is one of the more complex characters in the entire game for sure. I think Olimar is a lot of fun. I think that figuring out how the Pikmin work and stuff is really cool, but you do not give this to a beginner. They would struggle very, very hard. As with probably Lucario, I don't think Lucario is as hard to use as Olimar, but you've got to understand his aura mechanic. I really struggle with Lucario because I find I'm just not used to it. I don't play him enough, and his moves come out at weird times. I think he's a harder version of Mewtwo in some aspects. Like the aura thing's a really cool mechanic, but yeah, using him, I think he's a lot harder. I think you're better off learning Mewtwo to some extent, and then using Lucario afterwards, and figuring out how his aura mechanic works. Like, he is fun to use, don't get me wrong, but like, yeah, I just find him hard personally. And I'm someone who's been playing Smash for many years. Can't imagine what someone else might find him easy, I guess, but I wouldn't recommend him to a beginner. Rob, yeah, Rob's pretty easy. Rob's got a good recovery. He's got 2 projectiles. He's got the spinny move, I think, which reflects. Maybe his moves are a little bit on the slower side, but he's not a character I really play anymore. I used to play Rob a lot in Brawl, but like now I don't really play Rob at all. But like, thinking about it, he's a good character. He's got good moves, good combos. Like, he is an easy character to use, especially recovering. Like, you can recover really easily with Rob. So definitely would recommend this character as a beginner character because he can fly. Because he has got 2 different projectiles. You know, his smash attacks are really powerful. His tilts are actually really good as well. So all around, he's actually a fairly fun character. I just forget he's on the roster a lot of the time. Toon Link, probably in the same as Young Link. Young Link, I think, maybe a little bit easier to use. Toon Link's not hard to use by any stretch of the imagination. I think most of what I said about Young Link applies to Toon Link. They have slightly different combo games. Some of their attacks are slightly different. So it's kind of a personal choice which one you prefer. But I think Toon Link is kind of the same as Young Link. He's probably not quite as easy because he's got shorter range and stuff than the original Link, like Adult Link. But yeah, definitely would say once you've kind of got the use of how Link works, Young Link and Toon Link kind of work the same in that way. Wolf. Okay, Wolf. You're definitely easier to use than Fox, but are you still in the medium category? Yes, I think Wolf is easy to use. I think Wolf has a good projectile. The only thing that makes him difficult is his side B goes at a weird angle, but will spike somebody. His recovery's pretty decent, not quite as good, but he hits harder than the other 2 and he's a bit slower. So he's kind of more like Falco in that, like he probably moves more like Fox, but has like he's kind of like middle between Falco and Fox's jump, a bit slower. I think Wolf is fairly easy to use, honestly. Being a little bit on the slower side, having a good projectile, having a decent recovery. Most of his attacks are pretty good. He's just a bit slower, I think. And he's got a reflector as well, which is always good. Can never go wrong with one of those. So against projectile characters, he's definitely going to have a bit of an advantage there. Not really much to say about him. Like, just thinking about him, like, yeah, he's kind of like a middle ground of the other two. A bit slower, but all in all, pretty easy to use. Villager, you're going into hard. Villager's got such weird moves. Like, Villager literally has like the ability to drop a boulder on your head, a bowling ball, and like all of his moves are just very peculiar. And he definitely has like an easiness to him to start with like his recoveries. But actually thinking about it, like planting the tree and also the way his smash attacks work and stuff, I wouldn't give this to the beginning. He has Pocket, which is really powerful, but yeah, not the easiest character to use for sure. Alright, Mega Man. Yeah, Mega Man's probably me. Mega Man's thing that makes him a little bit more difficult is the fact that he has no side tilts. What's his down tilts? A slide and the punch. He is not that difficult to use overall, but he is probably the first character that I think is on this list that has a different side tilt. So you can run forward. Same with air. You have like you can jump in the air, and your neutral air attack is the same. It's the little gun, little pellets. So, but his good recovery, a lot of projectiles, very projectile heavy. His moves that don't require projectiles are quite laggy. So his slide and his up punch, like they're good moves, but if you block them, you can definitely counter him on it. He's all about projectiles. I think if you're learning to play someone like Samus, I think Mega Man's a good follow-up to that. What's his aerials, like flame sword and back thing, isn't it? He's just a little bit more on the complex side than someone like Samus, who's just very straightforward. But he's not like difficult. But like once you kind of realise that everything's all about projectiles and kind of how he plays, then he's definitely like a character that's a lot of fun. But you just got to get used to the fact that he loses those tilts, neutral airs, that kind of thing. So that always throws me off when I play him. But yeah, definitely a fun character. Ooh, Wii Fit Trainer. Probably getting medium. Mostly because of the way the moves come out. Wii Fit Trainer's moves are so bizarre. They are so strange. Like the neutral air is a really weird move. Like a lot of the moves that Wii Fit Trainer does, sometimes they attack in both directions. Like I really like this character. I think this character is a lot of fun. But I do think like the animations on the moves are just very strange. You're like, what is going on with this character? They're like doing like lunges, and you can do like kind of, yeah, just very strange moves. All in all, recovery's pretty good, has a projectile. Down B's a bit weird, like kind of some people still struggle with that, but yeah, overall I'd say this is a character that is easy in the way that they work, but understanding how they work is the difficult thing, because their moves are just weird. They come out weirdly. Rosalina, ooh, definitely hard. Rosalina has the ability to use Luma. Luma is controlled at the same time, and you can... Rosalina is like high skill character. Once you figure out like you can combo between the two characters, definitely very good. Crazy recovery. It gets KO'd quite easily, but all in all, definitely a character that I think is hard to learn. So yeah, there's that. Little Mac. Probably going to go hard. Little Mac has the worst recovery in the entire game. He's very, very powerful on the ground, very, very fast, has the KO punch, but again, probably wouldn't give it to a beginner just based unless you're playing on a very flat stage, because of the way that his recovery works, and you're just gonna die. Like a lot of people, once they're off stage with Little Mac, that's it. It's game over. You're not coming back from that. So he again is a lot of fun, but yeah, if you're playing on stages where you have bottomless pits and things, you're just going to lose if you're trying to learn this character. So yeah, that's how things not that easy. Greninja, I haven't played Greninja in a while. Greninja's definitely kind of medium. Greninja has fast movement, good recovery, like decent moves and all that, but the only downside is that he's just one of those characters like figuring things out, like kind of like how he works and ways that he works and things like that. He's just a bit difficult like that. He has
the shurikens. He has like the water recovery move, the teleport kind of thing, and he also has a counter. But I think sometimes figuring out the range of some of his moves can be a little bit difficult as well. So that can always be a bit on the harder side. So yeah, just not too difficult, but also not the easiest character to use either. So yeah, alrighty. Where do we get to? Oh, the Miis. You know, I'm going to ignore the Miis because the Miis are kind of like dependent on what moves you pick, and there's so many moves and things. So the Miis the Miis are probably like medium-ish, probably all of them. So that's probably where I would put them, because you got to learn what kind of moves you like and how they work and stuff. So let's just put the Miis here. I'm not going to go into them, but yeah, basically because they're customizable and things like that, that's kind of what makes them the way they are. Alright, Palutena, probably is she easy to use? She's got reflectors, she's got projectiles, she's got yeah, I'd say Palutena is pretty easy to use. Yeah, she can counter both projectiles and physical hits. She has 2 different projectile moves that are pretty decent. She's got a decent recovery, has fairly good aerials. There's not many downsides to her. I mean, maybe she's a bit light and some of those moves are a little bit laggy, but all in all, like, she's pretty good. She's kind of like Zelda in some ways with the way her projectiles work. Like, you do get left open when you're using them if you miss, so you definitely don't want to miss. But yeah, all in all, fairly straightforward character to use. Pac-Man. Ooh. I play Pac-Man a lot. I don't think Pac-Man... Do I think he's difficult? He's got no killing power, that's for sure. He's got the hydrant, he's got the power pellets. He's a lot of fun, but is he easy to use? He's got a good recovery, but a lot of people probably would... Oh dear, I think probably medium. In my head I'm like, I don't think he's that difficult to use, because of the way that he works. And the fact that he has like the power pellet move and the different fruits and things. Like, there's definitely some like learning curve to him, but overall he's not like difficult. I think his recovery is actually pretty good. I suppose that's probably the hardest thing to learn. Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird one with Pac-Man. I'm not sure. I don't think he's hard to use, because like he's got a good recovery. He's got projectiles. He's got fairly good moves. The biggest problem is that he's hard to KO with. And his grab's a bit rubbish. But other than that, like, he's not that difficult. Yeah, definitely something to think on. I don't think so. Robin. Robin. Oh, Christ. I think the only reason Robin's going into hard is because Robin has the ability to run out of attacks for a while. And that definitely adds a complexity to the character that I don't know if a beginner would grasp. Robin has good moves. Robin has very powerful moves, but they can run out for a short time if you use them too much. And I think that and that alone, apart from the fact Robin moves really slowly, is probably the reason why I would say that Robin is quite hard for a beginner to use. So yeah, not that easy. Right, who's up next? Lucina, the same things go for Lucina that they did for Marth. Lucina doesn't have a tipper, so she has damage across the entire blade the same. That sense, she's probably a little bit easier to use than Marth. But yeah, all in all, not the hardest character to use. Alright, so Shulk. Oh, Shulk. Hard. Shulk. Learning Shulk's Monado arts is basically what makes his character hard. The rest of his moves, not that bad. Like, his recovery is very vertical. He has a good counter. But you have to learn how to use his Monado arts and when to switch, and that is definitely something that even now I struggle with and I forget where they are. But he's a character that I think is very fun, has a lot, again, a high skill ceiling. But yeah, tough character to use. There's not much more I can say about Shulk, because he is pretty good, but it's just like, if you don't know how to use his Monado arts very well, you're going to struggle. Dark Pit is exactly the same as Pit. He's one of the easiest characters to use in the game. He has a slight differences on some of his moves, but other than that, easy. Bowser Jr. Medium. He's a weird character, Bowser Jr. Because he's in the clown car, and the clown car can do... You take less damage against the clown car and more against the actual character. Has very strange moves, but he's not, like, hard, I guess. It's just, like... getting used to the fact that his character is very bizarre. More than anything, he's got like a cannon move. He's got like he's a really animated character for sure. His moves are kind of crazy, but he's not. Apart from like his recovery being decent, I don't know whether I'd recommend him to somebody who's not played the game before. He's a little bit wily, a little bit on the crazier side of characters, but yeah, definitely not the easiest, but definitely not the hardest. So don't pick him up in the middle. All right, Duck Hunt Dog is definitely going to hard. Duck Hunt Dog's moves all rely about kind of go around using the can. The can is one of his main moves. A lot of his moves will affect that, like the down B and the which summons people that will shoot, as well as the clay pigeon, which can also move the can. And a lot of it kind of revolves around Duck Hunt using a lot of projectiles. His normals aren't bad, his recovery's not bad, but you've got to really figure out how to use the can and how to like put pressure on people with that and really kind of be quite oppressive. And you can probably pick him up and not really use the can and just use a lot of normals and smash attacks and things, but honestly I think Duck Hunt, to use him decently, you've kind of got to learn how to use the can, so he's definitely on the harder side of characters to learn. Alright, Ryu, definitely going into hard. I think a lot of these characters, they are difficult to use because Ryu has a lot of inputs. He plays like a Street Fighter character, and that itself is bloody difficult. So as we'll get to, wherever Ken is as well, Ken is also just as difficult to use. Where's Ken? I'll put Ken in here as well. Ken is even harder to use than Ryu, basically because he's very combo based. But they both are not easy characters to pick up and play. If you play Street Fighter, you'll have an idea, but yeah, both these characters, not that easy to play. Alrighty, what are we going on to next? Cloud. Cloud's medium. Cloud isn't hard because Cloud's got really good normals. Its specials are pretty good, but what makes Cloud a little bit more on the difficult side is that you about learning how to limit works and using limit at the right time and having that meter. As we get into the later characters, you'll start to see that they're probably going to fall into medium and hard, basically because they have special mechanics, and that's why Ryu and Ken are where they are, and that's why Cloud is where he is, because Ryu and Ken have inputs, Cloud has limit and things like that kind of power up his moves, and it's like understanding how they work and when to use them. Other than that, he's actually pretty easy to use. He's not that difficult. He's quite fun. Corinne. Yeah, Corinne's easy to use. Oops. It doesn't really matter which one I use. I'm going to use the male one because that's the one I normally play as. Male Corinne has good range, decent recovery like the rest of the Fire Emblem characters, has a counter, has a decent projectile, and has a good combo game. Just a fairly all-round, quite easy character to use. I still think Roy is a little bit more on the harder side than a lot of these characters. But yeah, there's not really much I can say about Corinne because like Corinne has good range and has all those things that make a Fire Emblem character a Fire Emblem character, essentially. Actually, I want to talk about Robin's down here only. So Robin's the hardest. I think Corinne and Lucina fairly easy to use in that aspect. Bayonetta is a hard character to use. Some people will disagree on this, but she completely relies on characters and using using combos, and she's a character that even now I still suck with. I have tried playing her quite a few times. Recovery's kind of a little bit weird. She's a lot of fun, like don't get me wrong, but yeah, she is definitely a hard character to learn because they try to make her play like she's from her games, which is very combo heavy. And you really kind of got to get used to the way that all of her attacks work. She's got very strange attacks, honestly, and that is not something. Even when I played her, it took me ages to kind of get used to the character. Definitely one of the more interesting characters, but yeah, very difficult character to use. Inkling, easy, I think. No, medium. Inkling's medium because you have to understand how the ink mechanic works. Inkling's moves, specials and stuff are all pretty fun to use, decent aerials, bloody good recovery, but you have an ink mechanic and you have to ink people to do more damage to them, and you also have to know how to refill your ink, and if someone's trying to stay on top of you, that can be difficult, so you've got to find the right time when to recharge and stuff. So I don't think this character is hard to use, and even when you run out of ink you can still use a lot of your moves, but definitely that ink mechanic is probably the thing that makes that character more complicated. If you didn't have that ink mechanic, it could never run out. Easy character without a doubt, but that definitely makes it something else you have to think about, resource management. Alright, Daisy, same as Peach, going in there. Ridley, Where are we putting Ridley? Let's think about it. Ridley has good... Ridley's weird because he's definitely medium. He has good attacks, but he also doesn't have... He's quite light for what he is, but he hits really hard. So he's kind of a weird one, Ridley. He's harder to use than, again, like DK. I think DK is one of the easier heavies. He's not as hard to use as DDD. But Ridley he hits pretty hard. He has free jumps. He has an alright recovery. He has he has a good neutral air, fairly good aerials in general, and he has a projectile. So all in all, like, I don't think he's that bad to use. I think he's I guess being a more of a heavier type. He moves a bit weirdly in some of his stuff. Like, he's definitely not. I don't think he's as easy to use as DK. And I think Bowser's probably slightly easier to use than Ridley as well. And I think that's because Bowser has some of that armor. Yeah, I think Ridley's probably on a slightly more difficult side. Just trying to think why though. Maybe he isn't. Maybe he's just similar to that. Because the heavies aren't that hard to use in this game. So, even though he's just outside that, I think I'm putting him there because he's definitely not hard to use. But I also wouldn't recommend him to a beginner player. I'm not sure why. Why wouldn't I recommend him to a beginner player? Is it because he's a bit on the slower side? I suppose his down B is really hard to land. His fireball move is pretty good. His recovery is pretty good. And he's got the grab move. He's not that slow. Maybe he is just quite easy to use. Yeah, maybe I'm going to change that. I'm going to put him to easy because I can't really think of a reason why I wouldn't recommend him to someone when he's got a fairly good recovery. He's got a good projectile move. He's got good aerial. So I think Ridley goes into easy. Simon and Richter. That's difficult because their recovery sucks, but I don't think they're hard to use because they've got lots of medium. I'll put you in there as well. They basically, as far as I'm concerned, have a lot of good moves. They have a ridiculous reach with the whip. They have good projectiles. Their biggest weakness is trying to recover, which is fair enough. That's not great, so that makes them harder. But as I'm trying to learn them, like, I think most people wouldn't have too much difficulty with them. Especially if they just want to play a projectile game, they can. So I think in that sense, they're actually fairly easy characters to pick up. I just think what makes them a bit more difficult is figuring out how to use the whip, because the whip is very specific, especially like up smash and forward smash and tilts and things, and their recovery sucks a little bit. But other than that, I don't think they're hard characters to use, because once you kind of figure them out, they're a lot of fun. Chrom is the same as Roy. Chrom but hits the same around the entire blade, so he's got some buffs over Roy in that sense. His biggest weakness is his recovery. His recovery sucks, but not enough for me to put him into hard. I think Chrom is as good as Roy in some aspects, if not better, but suffers massively with recovery. So certain stages you can play on, Chrom is way better, and you'll just have a much easier time. But yeah, Roy I think is just a bit of an easier character to use, but not. There's only really that one difference. This is recovery, and I think that balances it out. Dark Samus obviously the same as normal Samus, goes into there. King K Rool I actually think is the noob killer. I do think he's fairly easy to use. K Rool is definitely on the slower side, and he has some funky moves. But what K Rool does have is armor on a lot of his moves. So when you're learning this character, like, his recovery for a heavy is ridiculously good. Like, you'll go really high with it. He has 2 projectiles, one of which allows you to suck people back in, or suck the cannonball back in. The crown gives him super armor, so go through that. His forward tilt, neutral air, down B, what other ones is it? Like, those moves themselves, up air, those moves all have armor on them anyway. They use the body armor, so you can protect yourself when using those moves. His dash attack also has armor on it, and will go through most things. He is a character that I think is a noob killer, and will beat a lot of people that have never played against him before. But he's also very noob friendly in the sense that he's slow, but his moves are and quite obvious. But his moves hit like a truck. He has projectiles. His recovery is ridiculous for a heavy. But his biggest weakness is that he is slow. Like, he is a slow character, but I think learning him is easy. Alright. Isabelle, I think, is... Well, Villager's are hard. Do I think Isabelle's easier to use than Villager? No, I don't. I think Isabelle is also quite hard to use. I think her moves just come out just very strange. and I think that's what makes her difficult. Like Villager, like the recoveries are both good. Her down B is to plant like a Lloyd rocket in the ground that goes up. She's got the fishing rod, which is probably easier to use. But like even her smash attacks have short range. Her up smash is weird. Like she's fun, but she's also just difficult to use because she's just a very bizarre character. It's weird watching her fight in this anyway. Alright, Incineroar is... Incineroar's recovery is trash. Like, is utter trash. But he, as a character, has... Let's put him here. He has the up B, which on ground does a lot of damage. He has the Cyclone move, which is pretty good. He has the grabs, which are incredible. He has the down B counter. He's very slow. The slowest one on the ground. And his recovery sucks. You know what? I think just because of that, he's going into hard. He's not hard to use on the ground, but his recovery comes out at a weird angle, and he's really slow. And I think as a beginner character, he's not really that. I think that's a fair point. I think that's fair to say that, you know, if you're learning the game, he's not good unless you're on certain stages. If you're not used to recovering, because it goes up and then shoots at a weird angle, which can either save you or kill you a lot of the time. So it's not. Yeah, it's very hit and miss. Piranha Plant. Let's have a think. You got the poison, the ball move. Probably a medium character. I think the ball move takes a little bit of practice to figure out how to get the most oomph behind it. But generally speaking, I think Piranha Plant isn't that hard to use, but his moves are just a bit weird. So he's one of those characters, like, once you've got the hang of the game, then pick him up. Definitely a medium type character. But yeah, for sure, he's a bit of a weird one. He's a lot of fun to play, to be honest. He's got the poison, he's got the spiky ball, the stretchy move, and his up B is kind of funny watching him fly. And he's got little feet sticking out the plant pot, so what's not to like? But yeah, definitely a bit, not a complex character, but some kind of funky moves going on there. Joker, simply based on the fact that he has a mechanic, he's definitely going into hard. I think he's harder to use than Cloud. I think Cloud's limit works kind of similar. No, that's not right, is it? Like, I don't think if he's similar to Cloud, it should be here. Joker himself is fairly easy to use. His moves are... Let's think about it. He got the projectile, the up B grab. Yeah, Joker's... Yeah, what am I doing? Joker's not hard to use. Joker's more... He's not a beginner character because he has Arsene as an ability, and some of his moves are different. And I think that makes him a little bit more, but like even then I think someone who's learning the game and figures out how Joker works suddenly getting more powerful actually isn't that. So yeah, he's like Cloud in that sense where you've got to learn to use the ability, but actually a base version of Joker, very easy to use. Hero is definitely going into hard. Hero is, like, in a lot of ways Hero is not that hard to use, but you've got to understand, like, when his mana his spell box opens up and you have all those spells, you've got to be able to know what each one does and be able to do it on the fly and pick the one for the best situation. If you don't use that, he's actually really easy. He's very much like Link, but to use his character decently, you want to learn how his spells work, and for that, he's definitely not a new friendly character. He's going into hard. Banjo-Kazooie. You got Wonder Wing. I think Banjo-Kazooie is easy. Decent recovery. 3 jumps, I think. Wonder Wing, which goes through just about everything, so that side of things. Not the biggest range, but also has a projectile as well, so I can't think of many downsides to Banjo-Kazooie. They're actually fairly decent. Wonder Wing is one of the best moves in the game because it goes through just about everything. It goes through final smashes as well, which is crazy in some instances, so yeah, I think Banjo-Kazooie is easy to use. For sure. Terry's going into hard because Terry has inputs. Like, you don't have to use the inputs with Terry, Ryu, and Ken, but because that's part of the character, that instantly to me makes it more difficult. He also has the super special moves he can do. Like, I think Terry's great. I think Terry, Ryu, and Ken are fantastic additions. I love playing all of them. But again, I wouldn't recommend it to somebody who's not played the game before, and especially with Terry and his up B being Rising Tackle, which is very weird. And you can charge it, so he's definitely more on a complex side of things. I really like Terry, but I wouldn't recommend him to a beginner. Byleth, that's an interesting one. I mean, Byleth's not hard to use. Byleth's just a bit slow. I guess medium, just based on the fact that Byleth, you've got to learn that Byleth, every direction is a different weapon. You know, you've got the bow, the axe, the sword, and the spear, and depending on the kind of attack you do. So in that sense, he's probably not that complicated, but I guess learning as a character, you'd be like trying to figure out which weapon comes out in which directions and stuff like that. His recovery's a bit weird as well. Has some interesting properties to it, but yeah, I think Byleth's more slightly, he's not hard to use, but I don't know again whether you'd start with him. Min Min is definitely going into hard. Min Min, even though Min Min's a pain to fight against, like it completely changes how the character works. A lot of the moves that you would normally have with other characters is gone. Like you just basically control your move. You know, you control both arms with the A and the B button, which no other character does. So yeah, I think that mechanic alone, because they don't control like any other character, definitely makes this character much harder to use straight off the bat, and you can also smash attack in both directions. There's a lot of things Min Min can do that are just, yeah, it's just kind of a bit crazy in that sense. And then lastly, Steve, who is definitely going into hard. Steve, even though kids are going to love playing Steve is a bloody difficult character to use. But you have to think about digging, resource management, placing blocks, no range. It's just very weird, and honestly, like I think anyone who thinks this character is easy is kind of like, I'm not sure this is an easy character to use. He might have some things that make him easier, but in my opinion, very, very tough character to use. And there you have it. There's my list of easy, medium, and hard. This went on a lot longer than I thought it was going to. I forgot how many characters there are. I don't know if you guys will agree with this or disagree, but in my opinion, these are the characters I think that are the easiest, medium, and hardest characters to use in the game. And you know, as a beginner, I would recommend any of those ones in the top box. Once they've played a bit enough, I would recommend the medium ones. And once they're more comfortable with the game mechanics, definitely people in the bottom box, they're hard. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you like the video, hit like. If you want to see more content like this, then hit subscribe. If you want to get involved in other places, the links for Facebook and Twitter will be down below. And until next video, I will see you then.